Dear students, in this online lecture, we will discuss free radicals, their methods of generation, and their stability. So, let us begin with free radicals. Now, these free radicals they are reaction intermediates in which atom or group of atoms carries a unpaired electrons carried an unpaired electron. Okay, so in free radicals, atoms or a group of atoms they usually carries a unpaired electron. For example, if unpaired electron is present over carbon, suppose you have this kind of situation, so you have a one unpaired electron over carbon, so it will be called carbon radical. Similarly, this unpaired electron may be on another atoms also. For example, say over it is in chlorine, so it will be chlorine radical. On nitrogen, it will be nitrogen radical, and so on. So, free radicals is a general term that described uh, for intermediates in which atoms or group of atoms they carries a unpaired electron, and since this one electron is there and they are no, they don't have complete octet of electrons, so they are highly unstable and they want to take another electron to complete their octet, so that's why they are highly reactive. At the same time, these species they are neutral. They do not have any charge and they are neutral in nature. Now, these free radicals they can be easily generated by various methods, but the fundamental thing for their methods of generation is they can be generated by heterolytic homolytic bond cleavage. They can be generated by homolytic bond cleavage reaction. Homolytic bond cleavage means suppose you have any bond, say you have a carbon-carbon bond and in between you have a bond pair of electron. Now in homolytic bond cleavage, what happens? This bond pair of electron is equally taken by these two atoms. So one electron goes to this carbon and another electron it goes to this carbon. So you get two carbon with unpaired electrons which are free radicals. Now the movement of single electrons is always dominated by a half-headed arrow. So you have to draw the movement of these free radicals by half-headed arrows. So this homolytic bond cleavage it can be achieved by the various methods. The first one is by thermolysis. By thermolysis. That means we can homolytically break a covalent bond by thermal reaction or by thermolysis. For example, if you have a tetramethyl lead, and if you heat this tetramethyl lead in presence of nitrogen, uh, this undergoes a homolytic bond cleavage to give rise to a methyl radical. So it will give rise to a 4-methyl radicals. Okay. So they can be generated by heating or by thermolytic method. Similarly, they can be generated by using another compound. So for example, if you have benzoyl peroxide, now basically if you have per acids, now these per acids are compounds which consist of oxygen single bond, so they can be generated from these per acids also. For example, if you have a benzoyl peroxide. Now what's benzoyl peroxide is? It is phenyl, C double bond O single bond oxygen, C double bond O, phenyl. So this molecule is a benzoyl peroxide. Okay. So when you heat this benzoyl peroxide, you can see here you have a two oxygen atoms that have a single bond. Now since both atoms, they have same electronegativity, so this bond pair of electron is equally pulled by these two oxygen atoms. So what happened? This oxygen-oxygen bond breaks and each oxygen atom takes one electron to give rise to a benzoyl free radical. So this gives rise to a benzoyl free radical, which further undergoes reaction. So this electron shift over here and this bond also breaks. So this gives rise to a, with the loss of carbon dioxide, this gives rise to a two molecules of phenyl radical. So in this way, these phenyl radicals, it can be generated. Similarly, there are some other compounds. For example, they can be also generated by thermolytic reaction of azo compounds. Now, what are azo compounds? That contains of nitrogen-nitrogen double bond. So both have the same electronegativity. So they can also undergo a homolytic bond cleavage to give rise to the free radical. For example, if you have, suppose you have any azo compounds, say you have this one where n may be any group, so it undergoes a homolytic bond cleavage. So this bond and this bond undergoes a homolytic bond cleavage. So this results in a loss of nitrogen molecule and two alkyl radical. And the another example is, for example, say you have a AIBN, okay, which is a aza isobis nitrile. That is this one. So you have a CN over here. So you have a double bond CH3, CH3, Cn. So upon heating also, this undergoes a homolytic bond cleavage with loss of nitrogen molecule to give rise to the corresponding free radical. So the thermolytic method, by thermolysis we can prepare these free radicals. The next method is by photochemical cleavage. We can also prepare these free radicals by photochemical reaction. Now photochemical means in presence of light. So when light in between 600 nanometer to 300 nanometer is used, it usually have an energy in between 48 kilocalories per mole to 96 kilocalories per mole, and this energy is sufficient to carry out homolytic bond cleavage of a covalent bond. For example, if you have a chlorine and if you treat this chlorine by light by photochemical reaction, this chlorine at covalent bond, it undergoes a homolytic bond cleavage to give rise to two chlorine radicals. Similarly, if you have an acetone molecule, now this acetone, it also undergoes a homolytic bond cleavage in presence of light. So in presence of light, this carbon-carbon bond, it undergoes a homolytic bond cleavage to give rise to a methyl radical plus acetyl radical, which further undergoes a homolytic bond cleavage with loss of carbon monoxide to give rise to another methyl radical. So we can also prepare, in this way we can also prepare these free radicals by homolytic bond cleavage by using photochemical reactions. The another method is a redox reaction, or one electron redox reaction. Okay, or you can say one electron oxidation reduction reaction, in which movement of just one electron take place. So since movement of just one electron take place, so this also gave rise to the free radicals. For example, if you have a carboxylate ion. Now this carboxylate ion, it undergoes a one electron oxidation. It undergoes a one electron oxidation. That means it lost one electron to give rise to a corresponding radical, which further lost carbon dioxide to give rise to a alkyl radical. So these free radicals, they can be generated by redox reaction or by simply one electron oxidation reduction reactions. Now let us look at the structure of these free radicals. Now in these free radicals, there is a presence of one unpaired electron, and when we are dealing in organic chemistry, we are dealing with the carbon free radicals. So we will just discuss the structure of carbon free radicals. Now here, these carbon radicals, they may have sp2 hybridization or they may have sp3 hybridization. For example, simple methyl radical, it has sp2 hybridization, in which it has a trigonal planar structure like this with three covalent bonds. So three sp2 hybrid orbital, they form three covalent bond, and there's one unpaired electron which is present in unhybridized p atomic orbital, and these three are their sp2 hybrid orbital with bond angle of 120 degree, and they have a trigonal planar structure. They have a trigonal planar structure. Now in this case, these free radicals, they also have sp2 hybridization when they are stabilized by, as in case of carbon ion, when they are stabilized by conjugation or by resonance. In that case also they have sp2 hybridization. For example, if you have a vinyl free radical. Now in this vinyl free radical, it is stabilized by resonance. So resonance is only possible when this unpaired electron is present in unhybridized p atomic orbital. So in that case, it has sp2 hybridization. So it has sp2 hybridization. Similarly, if you have benzyl free radical, here also it is stabilized by resonance, and therefore it also have a sp2 hybridization. At the same time, some free radicals, they may have sp3 hybridization. So these free radicals, they may have sp2 hybridization, they may have sp3 hybridization. And this sp3 hybridization is mostly in cases when highly electronegative atoms are present with carbon. So when highly electronegative atoms are present, like fluorine, in that case they have sp3 hybridization. For example, trifluoromethyl free radical, and this trifluoromethyl free radical, it has sp3 hybridization, in which this unpaired electron, it is present in a sp3 hybrid orbital. So in this case they have a pyramidal structure, just like ammonia molecule, they have a pyramidal structure. So in that case they have a structure like this. So one electron is present in sp3 hybrid orbital and three covalent bonds are there, and each bond is sp3 hybridized. So here it is also an sp3 hybrid orbital. So they may have a sp2 hybridization, they may have sp3 hybridization. And what is the proof for that they have both sp2 and sp3 hybridization is uh, if we carry out for example, if we carry out, or we can say proof for configuration, or you can say stereochemistry of free radicals. Now, one proof is in case of free radicals, bridgehead free radicals, they do exist. Bridgehead free radicals, they do exist. Now that means just like in case of carbocations, if bridgehead free radicals exist, that means they have sp2 hybridization, because they can't acquire sp3 hybridization because of their geometry. So that is one thing. Another thing is we can also provide proof by the chemical reactions. For example, if you have for example, say you have 1 chloro 2 methyl butane. For example, say if you have this molecule 1 chloro 2 methyl butane, so that means structure is like this one. Okay, so it's 1 chloro C2H5. Okay, 1 chloro 2 methyl butane C2H5. Now if you carry out its chlorination reaction, in which you treated the chlorine radical, of course you treated the chlorine in presence of light, so that generates this chlorine radical. So substitution of this hydrogen by this chlorine radical take place, and now this carbon is a chiral carbon. 4 different groups are attached. So when you carry out this reaction, what you get is you always get a racemic mixture. Okay, you always get a racemic mixture. So you get two products which are mirror images of each other. So you get one product, this one, and you got the another product which is a mirror image of this one. So in that case, like this, so you get a two product, two enantiomers which are racemic mixture. Now formation of this racemic mixture in each case can be explained either by sp2 hybridization of free radical which are formed as intermediate in this reaction, or by sp3 hybridized intermediates. So let us explain by sp2 hybridized intermediates, free radical. So you have this molecule CH2, Cl, CH3, C2H5, and you treat it with a chlorine radical. So when you treat it with a chlorine radical, what happens? This carbon hydrogen bond, it undergoes a homolytic bond cleavage, and this is taken by this hydrogen radical taken by this chlorine radical. So there's a loss of hydrochloric acid, so that gives you a C2H5 over here, carbon radical over here, CH3, CH2, Cl. Now suppose if it has sp2 hybridization. Now sp2 hybridization means it has a trigonal planar geometry. It has a trigonal planar geometry. So you have a like this one, and there's a free radical in this unhybridized p atomic orbital. Now what happens, since it has a trigonal planar geometry over here, so this next chlorine radical, it can attack from the both side. It can attack from this side, or it can attack from this side, giving rise to a two possible products. So which is again a racemic mixture, because attack can take place from the both sides. So that will give rise to the racemic mixture. On the other hand, if it has sp3 hybridization or a pyramidal geometry, just like in case of carbanions, in that case also it will give rise to a racemic mixture. Why in that case it will give rise to racemic mixture? Because the free radical which is formed in that case, for example, that is your free radical which is formed C2H5 CH2Cl. Now, this free radical which is formed over here, it will undergo a rapid flipping. So, just in case of carbanions, if you remember carbanions, these carbanions, they also undergoes a flipping. So, they undergoes a very fast flipping in which two mirror images are formed. Okay. So, due to this rapid flipping, even though here this carbon is a chiral, but these two mirror images, they are rapidly flip into each other, they rapidly change into each other, and both are mirror images of each other. So that's make them optically inactive. Due to this flipping, both exist in the same time. So this form will give rise to one product, this form will give rise to another product, and both products, they are mirror images of each other. So in that case also you will get racemic mixture. So we can say these free radicals, they can have sp2 hybridization and they can have sp3 hybridization. But the main thing is they have sp2 hybridization when they are stabilized by resonance or by conjugation, and they mostly have sp3 hybridization when they have more electronegative atoms are attached. For example, trifluoromethyl radical. So they can have both kind of hybridization. So in exam question may become how you will prove configuration of these free radicals. So in that case you have to explain both these factors, or question may be asked discuss the stereochemistry of free radicals. So in that case you have to discuss this thing, that means discuss their chiral behavior, and you have to say they are optically inactive even though when they have sp3 hybridization. Why? Because they rapidly flip into each other. Two forms, two pyramidal forms, sp3 hybridized pyramidal form, they rapidly flip into each other, due to which the resultant free radicals, they are optically inactive, just as we have discussed in case of carbanides. Same explanation. Now next is stability of free radicals. Now these free radicals, they can be stabilized by either hyperconjugation or by resonance. So let us see the hyperconjugation. For example, if you have simple methyl radical, you have a primary radical, primary alkyl radical 1 degree. You may have a secondary, or you can have tertiary alkyl radicals. So here it is usual these tertiary alkyl radicals, they are more stable than secondary, primary and methyl radical. Why? Because of hyperconjugation. Now in hyperconjugation, as you know, transfer of electrons from alpha carbon hydrogen bonds take place to the vacant or a half-filled p atomic orbital, so to the pi bond. More number of alpha carbon hydrogen bonds, more the hyperconjugative structures, and more is stability. And you have to draw these structures by yourself. For example, in this case there is no alpha carbon hydrogen bond, so there is a no hyperconjugation structure, zero hyperconjugation structure is there. While here you have a 3 alpha carbon hydrogen bonds, so you have a total 4 hyperconjugative structure, one original and 3 another. I will draw one or two. Okay, so remaining you have to draw by yourself. So this bond undergoes a homolytic bond cleavage like this. Transfer of one electron from this alpha carbon hydro bond take place to this half-filled p atomic orbital, so that results in a this one. Similarly, you can write 3 another resonance structures, hyperconjugation structure like this. So here you have a total 4 hyperconjugative structure. Here you have a 7 hyperconjugative structure and here you have a 10 hyperconjugative structure, as it has 6 alpha carbon hydrogen bond, and here you have a 9 alpha carbon hydrogen bond. So more hyperconjugative structures, more the stability. The another factor that describes the stability of these free radicals is a resonance. So more resonance structures, more the stability. For example, if you have, so resonance also describe the stability of these free radicals. For example, if you have allyl free radical, so this is allyl free radical, and as we have discussed earlier, it has two resonance structures. You can write its two resonance structures. So this bond undergoes a homolytic bond cleavage, so one electron here, this forms a double bond over here, so this gives two resonance structure. While benzyl free radical, now this benzyl free radical, it is more stable as compared to allyl free radical because of more resonance structures. Okay, here you can write more resonance structures. So simply how you can write, so this bond undergoes a homolytic bond cleavage, so one electron here, they form say double bond, and then this single electron, they participate or they rotate over the whole ring. So you can write the another structures like this. Then so this will shift over here, this bond undergoes a homolytic bond cleavage, so you get a double bond over here, single electron will come over here, and finally this bond undergoes a homolytic bond cleavage. So okay, this one, so you can see there are total 5 hyperconjugative 5 resonance structures in case of benzyl free radical, and in allyl free radical there are just 2. So these benzyl free radicals, they are more stable as compared to allyl free radicals. Similarly, more the number of phenyl rings, more the stability. For example, if you have a diphenyl methyl free radical, so it will be more stable as compared to benzyl free radical, as in this case you have more number of resonance structures, which is less stable as compared to triphenyl methyl free radical, because here you will have a more number of resonance structures. So you have to draw by resonance structures by yourself. So this was all about the free radicals, okay, about the structure, methods of generation and stability of free radicals. So more you can read from the book and notes, and if you have any question you can ask.